Adam's rib and the Word of God. We believe that Elohim has given us a shadow story in a parallel account from the creation of Adam and Eve to help us understand the relationship between the Father and the Son. The two stories have similarities and differences, but when comparing the two accounts, we believe the similarities and differences lead us to a deeper understanding of the nature of Elohim. The account of Adam and Eve going forward into the future can be seen as a type and shadow prophecy of Yeshua and his bride. In this prophetic typology, God is the father of the bridegroom, Adam is Yeshua as the bridegroom, and Eve is the bride representing God's people Israel. One thing to note in this typology is that the father of the bridegroom and the bridegroom are two separate persons. Also, we should note that gender, as in male or female, is not necessarily relevant in these typologies. As we see, the bride, Israel, is made up of human men and women. In these kind of analogies and typologies, it is not necessary for all the details to be the same or literally true. We believe that with the roles of the persons changed, there is also a type and shadow story of Adam and Eve going backwards in time that helps us to understand matters before the creation of mankind. Understand that Elohim has used many different metaphors to represent Yeshua, like living water, bread, light, lamb, vine, etc., and types like Adam, Isaac, Joseph, Solomon, Jonah, etc.
Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness."
We have shown that Genesis 1:26 is both Father and Son speaking of making mankind in their image and likeness. Could the creation of the first humans, Adam and Eve, give us some idea as to the image and likeness of the Father and Son? We believe that Elohim was giving us a clue in Genesis 1:26. We believe he was pointing us toward the creation of man to help us understand the image and likeness of Elohim. Elohim has informed us that he has hidden matters in his word for us as believers to seek out and find.
Proverbs 25:2. It is the esteem of Elohim to hide a matter, and the esteem of sovereigns to search out a matter.
So this is our understanding of how Adam and Eve represent the image and likeness of God.
Genesis 2:7. And Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground, and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and the man became a living being. Genesis 2:18. And Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him as his counterpart."
We see here that Adam was the first of mankind. We believe this is a reflection of the Father being the first of his kind, meaning the divine Elohim kind. The Father knew that it wasn't good for Adam to be alone, and we believe the Father could relate to this, as before his Son was brought forth, he himself had experienced being alone, and we believe he is using the account of Adam and Eve to tell us. Could Elohim be suggesting that in a similar way to how Adam needed a counterpart, the Father had also desired a companion to share eternity with?
Genesis 2:19-20. And from the ground Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper for him as his counterpart.
We see in verses 19 and 20 that a helper or counterpart from all these creations of different kinds was not suitable for Adam. We believe that Elohim may be using these verses to hint at the idea that a companion of a different nature or kind wasn't appropriate for the Father either. So how did Elohim solve the problem for Adam?
Genesis 2:21-24. So Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in its place. And the rib which Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim had taken from the man he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And the man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one is called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.
So we see here that the solution for Adam was to make him a partner from his own nature. Elohim took Eve out of Adam. Is Elohim using these verses to teach us in a way that we can understand how the Son was taken out of the Father? Is the rib taken out of Adam to form Eve a metaphorical shadow story of the Word being taken out of the Father to form Yeshua? Remember, this is just a shadow story, a parallel story with some similar characteristics to help us understand the point. And as we have previously shown, gender is not necessarily relevant in typologies. Please also note that we're not saying that the Son was literally created in the same way that Eve was created. We're saying that at some point in eternity past, the Son was brought forth out of the Father to be his companion, in a similar way to how Eve was taken out of Adam to be his counterpart. We believe that Elohim has shown us this in an analogy in Daniel chapter 2, where we see that Yeshua was the stone that was cut out of the mountain without hands.
Daniel 2:34. You were looking on until a stone was cut out without hands, and it smote the image of its feet, iron and clay, and broke them in pieces.
We believe that this verse in a similar way shows how Yeshua was taken out of the Father, and that without hands is meaning that Yeshua was not made or created, but was taken out. From the rock analogy, we can also understand that the rock didn't have a beginning at the point he was cut out, as he was already a part of the mountain, but the rock didn't have an identity separate from the mountain until he was cut out. Likewise, in the Adam and Eve analogy, due to the fact that Eve was formed from Adam's rib, she previously existed as a part of Adam, so her beginning in nature is from the time of the beginning of Adam. Although Eve had a beginning of consciousness at the point when she was taken out of Adam, the rib, or we could say her human nature she was formed from, was part of Adam, so her origin goes back to the origin of Adam. Could these verses be showing us how Yeshua and the Father are also of the same divine kind? We believe that in the typology, Adam's rib metaphorically represents the Word of God. We can then use this understanding to help explain how the only begotten Son can both be divine from having his origins in eternity with the Father and have a beginning as the Son of God at the point in history where he was taken out of the Father.
Genesis 5:2. Male and female he created them, and he blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day they were created.
We see in Genesis 5:2 how both Adam and Eve were given one name, Adam. They are both Adam kind. Could this also be reflecting the likeness of the Father and the Son? As they share the same nature and are of the same kind, could the Father and the Son also both be the same kind?
Micah 5:2. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, you who are little among the clans of Yehudah, out of you shall come forth to me the one to become ruler in Israel, and his comings forth are of old from everlasting.
As we see in Micah 5:2, the Son is from ancient days or antiquity, and he was brought forth out of the Father long ago. Therefore he is of the same nature and kind as his Father, which is divine Elohim nature and kind. The word in Micah 5:2, translated here as everlasting, in our opinion is not the best translation. We believe that the Christian Standard Bible more correctly renders the meaning of the verse.
Micah 5:2 Christian Standard Bible. Bethlehem Ephratah, you are small among the clans of Judah. One will come from you to be ruler over Israel for me. His origin is from antiquity, from ancient times.
The Hebrew word olam should be better understood as a very long time ago or ancient times, not a time with no beginning or end. If we draw understanding from the parallel account of Eve, we can see that the Son of God did have a beginning as a separate individual person, just as Eve did. As Adam was one person that became two people, so also the Father begot the Word, also known as Yeshua, and they became two divine persons. So what about authority between the two persons?
1 Corinthians 11:3. And I wish you to know that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Messiah is Elohim.
We see that Adam is the head of his wife, Eve, in a similar likeness to how the Father is head of Yeshua, his Son. Clearly, the Father is the Most High, the one true God.
John 14:28. You heard that I said to you, I am going away and I am coming to you. If you did love me, you would have rejoiced that I said, I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I.
So what about equality between the two persons?
Galatians 3:28. There is not Yehudite nor Greek, there is not slave nor free, there is not male and female, for you are all one in Messiah Yeshua.
So even though the man has authority over his wife, they are still viewed as equal in value.
John 5:23. That all should value the Son, even as they value the Father. He who does not value the Son does not value the Father who sent him.
So likewise we see in John 5:23 that the Father desires that we should value the Son, even as we value the Father. Adam became two separate people with two separate minds, but they are one flesh. They are of the same accord, two united as one. As Adam and Eve were united by flesh, could it be that the Father and the Son are united in spirit?
John 3:6. That which has been born of the flesh is flesh, and that which has been born of the Spirit is spirit. John 10:30. I and my Father are one. John 17:5. And now esteem me with yourself, Father, with the esteem which I had with you before the world was.
Yes, we believe God the Father and his Son are also both of the same accord and united as one in spirit. Summary: Adam's rib and the Word of God. God uses analogies, metaphors, parables, types and shadow stories, etc. to help us understand principles or ideas. Adam and Eve are a type of the Father and the Son, as they are made in their image and likeness. The analogy of Adam's rib and the Word of God helps us to understand the relationship between the Father and his Son. Adam represents the Father, who was first, and so has authority, and is the source of his companion. Eve represents Yeshua, and was taken out of Adam. She came second, and is therefore subordinate to Adam. However, we are to value the Son as we value the Father, just as Adam and Eve are valued equally.